Hello everybody, welcome to another exhilarating, exciting episode of Jimmy Giardiniera, SQL Extraordinaire, solving Leetcode database hard problems. The goal of the series is to get through all of the hard problems on Leetcode, walk you through how I approach the problem, how I would solve it, and just be another resource for anyone learning SQL, practicing SQL, or preparing for a SQL technical interview. So with that, let's jump into it. The last one that we did was problem 1635, Hopper Company Queries 1. So I think it makes sense just to jump into Hopper Company Queries 2, problem 1645. So let's get into it. Like I mentioned in some of my other videos, the way that I like to approach these problems is I like to read the problem statement first, get an idea of what they're asking us to query, and then I like to look at the example data they provide, and then finally looking at the output, how do they want us to format it? And that should help kind of inform our decision on how we're going to approach the problem. Okay, so it looks like this is already similar to Hopper Company Queries 1. Write a SQL query to report the percentage of working drivers, working percentage being the column name, for each month of 2020, where the percentage is the number of drivers that accepted at least one ride during the month, divided by the number of available drivers during the month, and then times that by 100. So they want not like a decimal percentage. Note, if the number of available drivers during a month is 0, we consider the working percentage to be 0. Return the result table ordered by month in ascending order, where month is the month's number, round working percentage to the nearest 2 decimal places. So we will have to remember that to make sure that our query is accepted. And the result format is in the following example. So same example tables that we had for part 1. We have a drivers table, a rides table, an accepted rides table, and then this is how our output should look, and then our explanation. But I think it's pretty straightforward. Companies, this is an Uber question from 1 to 2 years ago. Okay, so let's get into it. So we're going to run into a similar issue as part 1 of this question, where the way that I've chosen to approach it is building out a date table in like a CTE or a common table expression, because we don't have every month in the rides table, so that can't really be our base if we're going to group by month. We don't have every month in the drivers table. We have no month in the accepted rides table. So let's go ahead and start that. And so apologies in advance for watching me type out this lengthy, kind of ugly table. Select 1 as month, union all, can't spell, select 2 as month. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. I am a big Chicago White Sox fan, and we won comeback win against the Astros today, so that's always exciting and just really revs me up to do some SQL. Select 6 as a month. I think that's a good stopping point, and so we'll copy this slowly but surely. Union all, paste it, and then replace these values. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Cool. So now we have, I think I just muted myself. Hopefully that comes back. Now we have all months. So what we can do now is we know we're going to group by month. We know this is going to kind of be the base of our query is this month ID table. So let's do select m.month, and let's just test it and make sure that this is working as expected, month ID m. And we're going to group by m.month. So let's give this a shot. Run code, judging, no. But we do get them all, and we get them in ascending order. So that's the nice thing about this union all piece, I guess, is that we don't have to do any type of ordering. It's already going to come in this order. Okay, cool. So I think the next step is now finding the amount of available drivers during the month. So in this case, this is our denominator. And this is very similar to part 1 as well. What we're going to do is we're going to do a left join, but within that left join, we only want certain data. So what we want is we want the D driver ID. So I'm looking at this drivers table down here. D.driver ID. I want the month of their join dates as D month. I want the year of their join date as the D year from drivers D, where 1 and year.d join date is less than 2021. The reason for having this where clause, we could take this driver that's in 2021 as well, but there's really no need, right? If we're only looking at available drivers during 2021, anyone who joined after if we're only looking at available drivers during 2020, any driver that joined later than 2020, like the end of 2020, really means nothing to us. And so I think it's just cleaner just to kind of eliminate them from the subquery in general. Cool. So how are we, sorry, I have like this hockey puck that I'm speaking into and I keep pressing buttons on it. Okay, so we're gonna name this D for drivers, and the way we're gonna join this is we're gonna join this on D.dmonth is less than or equal to M.month. Why is that our join condition? Well, if a driver, say a driver joined in February, but we're looking at April, we want to count that driver as one of the drivers that is available because they signed up in February. We're assuming that they're active February, March, and then also in April. So that's our first one. And then the second one, because it looks like we do have drivers here that are active in 2019. So we are considering them available for any month in 2020 since they joined prior to 2020. So we'll do or D.D year, and that's why I extracted this as D year up here, is less than 2020. So basically, say we're querying, say the month that we're iterating over is, October. We want any driver whose D month is October or later, or any driver who is prior to 2020. 2020. Cool, so that should be good. We can just print this out just to make sure it's working as expected. So what we would do is account distinct D.driver ID. Let's run it. So in this case, in the first month, we have 2 drivers. Second month, we have 3. Third month, we have 4. And then since no one joined in April, we should just still have these 4, which we do. So that all looks good. That's our denominator. That's good to go. Next, we want our numerator. Our numerator being number of drivers that accepted at least 1 ride during the month. So, rides table, we can see all of our rides. And then in the accepted rides table, we get our driver IDs. So what we want to do is we want to grab the number of rides, essentially that were accepted, and then join that to this month table. Very similar to how we did the drivers table. So let's do left join. We're going to throw another kind of subquery into this left join to only pull back certain data. We're going to do r.rideid. We're going to do month r.rideid. That's a lie. We're going to do r.requestedAt as our month. The question is here, do we need the year for any reason? I don't think so. The reason is there is a 2019 ride, but that doesn't matter, right? We're not looking at any type of there's no need for historical data from our rides table. So we don't really need year. We'll just filter out anything that's not from 2020. And then so we'll do from rides are, the next thing we'll do is we're going to add in an inner join statement into our left join. The reason for that is this right now, as it's written, is going to pull back every single ride, whether it was canceled or, I guess basically just canceled, right? Canceled or not accepted or expired, what have you. So if we do an inner join though on accepted rides, AR on r.rideid is equal to ar.rideid, this will now exclude any rides that are not in this accepted rides table because it's an inner join, right? It has to be in both tables for it to be returned to us. So all of those expired, canceled, whatever rides are now gone. And then we're also going to do a where 1 equals 1, and year r dot requested at is equal to 2020. We only want 2020 rides, so we'll just throw that in there. And we're going to name this r on so this is going to be equal to the month. m.month is equal to r.rmonth. Reason for that is we want to count all of the rides that are specific to that month. That's why it's different than the driver's table, where we're looking at essentially like a cumulative list of driver IDs. We're only looking at that specific month's ride IDs. Cool. So now let's actually just throw this in here before we do any type of calculation and see what it looks like. So r.rideid. The reason we're counting ride IDs and not drivers that accepted is there's only one driver, per ride ID. So that shouldn't matter. That's number of drivers that accepted at least one ride during the month. This actually could maybe bite us, eh? The reason I say that is because say there is a driver that, yeah, it can't be ride ID. So I think we actually need to switch this around. Let's do this. Let's do ar.driverID, month r.requested at as our month, from accepted, no, I think that's fine, from rides r, and okay, so now we have the driver ID, so we should be able to do a distinct here instead of using ride ID. That's my mistake. Driver ID, r.driver ID, and let's see what we get back. So now we have 1, 2, 0. So there was 0 accepted rides in the first month. We have 2, 3, 0. So 0 in the second month. That looks good. We have 3, 4, 1. So 1 accepted, 4 drivers, 25%. That looks good. It looks like this should add up if we're able to do the calculations the right way. So let's go ahead. I guess we can keep these the way they are. So we'll do case or count distinct r.driverID divided by count distinct d.driverID. So the number of drivers that accepted at least one ride during the month divided by the number of available drivers during the month. And we will do this. We need to round this. So we'll round it to the second decimal point. And we'll do as working percentage. So let's run this. Wrong answer still. That's fine. Oh, we need to times it by 100. So let's times by 100 and see what we get. Still wrong. Why? So what we need to do is put the times 100 inside. So we're basically rounding it to the 2 decimal points and then multiplying it. Whereas if we do it here on the inside and then round, it should give us this level of granularity that we're looking for. Accepted. Cool. So let's go ahead and submit see if this works for all of their test cases. We pass their first test case. They'll throw in some trickier ones. See if our solution works, and if so, we'll talk through it. Fingers crossed, as always. Submit. Rats. So we are wrong somewhere. So if we look at this data, oh, okay, that's fine. So let's see, one null. Okay, so what we need to do is, the issue is that if I look back at the description, if the number of available drivers during the month is 0, we consider the working percentage to be 0. So I didn't follow the note. The note's in bold. I should have looked at it. I didn't. So let's do a case when. This is going to look very ugly, so bear with me. Case when count distinct d.driver ID is 0, then round 0 to the 2 decimal places, else, and actually let's turn this into a new line, else we want this number, and then we're going to new line it, end as working percentage. So let's run this, make sure this still works. Oh no. Doesn't like my line breaks. So let's just take these out, and I will review that syntax later. And let's try again. Run code. Cool, still accepted. Fingers crossed. Did we beat their tricks? Success. Sweet. So runtime 1891 milliseconds, faster than 49.3%. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so now let's walk through kind of why we did what we did and how it makes sense and what it sounds like in, I guess, as close to just normal speak as we can. So the first thing that we did was we created a date table. We created essentially the number for each table, or the number for each month, and then that's what we used as our base table. We knew we were going to group by month, and so we wanted to make sure that we had, even if there was like 0 activity during that month, we wanted a row for it. So we select our month from this CTE, and then we do a case when count distinct d.driver ID. So case when the number of available drivers is 0, then the answer is 0, which we get from this note here. Otherwise, we want the number of rides accepted, which is, or the number of drivers that accepted rides, which is r.driver ID, divided by the number of available drivers, d.driver ID, round that to the second decimal place, and end that as working percentage. The way we found those, the denominator and numerator, are we left joined on the drivers table. So for each driver, we found the day, the month they joined, and the year that they joined. If they joined prior to 2020, we consider them available for the entire year of 2020. They are with us, they are a veteran, they're good to go. Otherwise, we counted them if their join date was either the month we're querying or any month prior to that. So that's how we found the number of available drivers. To find the number of drivers that accepted a ride, we took the rides table, looked at each ride by month. So, but only in the year 2020. So the number of rides in January 2020, February 2020, etc. Then we only took those rides that were accepted. So we did an inner join with the accepted rides table, only took those accepted rides, extracted that driver ID so we could do a count distinct on it, and then we joined on the month. So when we're looking at January, we only want January rides or January drivers, and then we grouped by the month, and that seemed to work. So sweet, another Hopper company query done. We'll move on to Hopper company query 3. Hopefully it's not like very similar to the first 2 queries, but thanks for hanging with me and navigating some bumpy waters as we had a couple of errors, but I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot.